Naomi couldn't find a job for a long time. She had gone for several interviews and sent her resume many times, but all to no avail. And then she got a call from one company, and Naomi immediately went for the interview. The secretary asked Naomi to wait a little while. "Our director, Mr. Sanders, will come in a moment and explain everything to you." Naomi imagined an elderly man wearing glasses and with a rather angry look, but the director turned out to be a middle-aged man who, though not an old man, was old enough to be her father. Mr. Sanders gave the secretary some documents and then invited Naomi into his office. When she stepped inside, she immediately noticed that the furnishings somewhat resembled a living room. "I have reviewed your application form, and I think you'd be perfect for us. Well, my secretary, who you've already seen, is not very good at her job, and I would like you to take her place. And for her, I will find another position that suits her better." Naomi was a little upset because she did not want to take someone else's place, so she decided to clarify. But how will she react to this kind of rearrangement? "I don't know, of course, but I'm sure she has worked for you for a long time, and it wouldn't be quite right to dismiss her from her position. Moreover, the other employees would be whispering behind my back." The director looked at her carefully and replied, "You are an intelligent girl, but you see I cannot afford to be weak-willed. It is not acceptable in business." By this, Mr. Sanders made it clear that all questions about personnel changes had already been resolved. But Naomi was not shy and asked one more question. "And yet I would like to clarify what exactly your secretary can't cope with. After all, the range of her duties is not that wide. She helps you interact with clients and keeps track of paperwork." At this point, the director's face turned red. "That's right. She's supposed to supervise work issues, and she's not coping with some of them. Look, if you don't want the job, then we can end our conversation here." Naomi decided not to ask any more questions. "Okay, no problem. I really do need a job." Mr. Sanders nodded contentedly. When the interview was over, Naomi decided to talk to the secretary, so she walked up to her and said, "Excuse me for interrupting you, but I need to talk to you. May we go to a cafe tonight? There's a quite decent place across the street." To her great surprise, the secretary agreed and didn't even ask any questions. At home, Naomi told her mother that she almost got the job. "I talked to the director. He seemed like a normal boss, but with some oddities." The mother frowned and asked, "What do you mean, dear? He's shown some bad behavior maybe, or he's hitting on you?" Naomi shook her head. "No, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't even bother. I mean, Mr. Sanders, that's the director's name, easily fired his secretary to put me in her place. She and I are meeting today, and something tells me that she's going to reveal some not very nice things about him." Her mother moved closer and said, "Look, if he turns out to be some kind of womanizer, don't hesitate and turn down that job right away. You are smart and you will find another good vacancy." Bianca Walker was worried about her daughter because she was raising her alone. Her boyfriend left her just before Naomi was born. Soon, Bianca got rid of everything that could remind her about him. She didn't leave even a picture. In the evening, as arranged, Naomi met with Mr. Sanders' secretary. She came in a little later and got right down to business. "I understand that Mr. Sanders has some complaints about my work, but this is only a cover. In fact, Mr. Sanders loves women very much, and he needs special attention from his secretary. As for me, I have a husband, and I have never allowed anything of this kind in my address. Therefore, be careful." Naomi disliked what the woman said. "Maybe it's not as sad as you're telling me now. You've been working at the company for a long time, and being displaced to another position is not a very pleasant prospect. But believe me, I had nothing to do with it. I got a call that there was a vacancy. If you want it, I can turn it down, and then you'll stay where you are." The secretary looked at her sadly. "By the way, my name is Helen. You and I are talking like friends, but we have not had time to get acquainted. So, as far as your employment, do not turn down this offer. Whatever happens, all for the best." At this point, Naomi's phone rang. "Oh, hi! Sorry I haven't visited you in a while. Well, I'll be there today. I hope you'll make my favourite pie. Bye." The call was from Naomi's grandmother, who for some reason wanted to see her urgently. Helen looked at her watch. "I see you're rushing. Well, I won't hold you up. And remember, you must keep your ear to the ground or you'll be sorry later." 2 hours later, Naomi was at her grandmother's home. "Hello, Granny. What's the rush? Your voice was a little bit strange." The grandmother brought Naomi into the kitchen and sat her down at the table. "I've wanted to talk to you about my apartment for a long time. You're my only granddaughter, so I decided to leave my real estate to you, but don't tell your mother anything." Naomi squinted and asked, "What's the big deal if she finds out?" Grandma came out of the kitchen, and when she came back, she brought a small picture with her. "Look at this man's face. Just look carefully and remember." The grandmother handed Naomi a picture of a young man. The girl looked closely at it, but still did not understand anything. "Is that a relative of yours or some acquaintance?" The elderly woman sighed. "Your mother destroyed all memories about your father. She even threw away all his pictures. I kept one of them. Even though your mother is against it, you have the right to know your father's face. Who knows, maybe you and your father will even meet." Naomi scrutinized the picture carefully. The young man who looked at her from the picture reminded her of someone, but she could not remember who exactly. Suddenly her attention was caught by a birthmark on his right wrist. It seemed to her that she had seen it somewhere before. Trying to remember, she went over in her head all the people whom she had ever known and with whom she had interacted. She was distracted from her thoughts by her grandmother's voice. "Let's go. I've made a pie. You can watch later. But, like we agreed, don't tell your mother anything." Naomi nodded. In the evening she arrived home. "Mom, I was visiting my grandma." Bianca came out of her bedroom and answered grudgingly. "She's up to something again. She can't live without interfering in our family. And don't tell me she just invited you for tea." Naomi was surprised at this reaction. She didn't answer anything and went to her room after dinner. She pondered what her grandmother had told her. She was also troubled by Helen's words. Everything came up at the wrong time, and her father's picture came up at the most inopportune moment. Naomi turned on the nightlight and looked at the photo again. There seemed to be nothing remarkable about the man in the picture. Suddenly, she almost dropped the photo from her hands. A thought flashed in her head. Did I really find him? The next day, Naomi went to the office and bumped into the director right at the entrance. He looked at her from head to toe and muttered as if to himself, "Yes, you look great. Just what I need. Go into the office. I'll be back in a few minutes." Naomi went into the study and sat on the farthest chair. She was clutching her father's photo in her hand. Mr. Sanders came exactly 5 minutes later. "I'm sorry you had to wait for me, but business requires constant supervision, otherwise everything will fall apart. So, have you decided to work for me? Or maybe you have some questions?" In response, Naomi said, "I thought about your proposal. I think it suits me." Suddenly, Mr. Sanders came up to her and sat down next to her and put his hand on her knee. "Look, honey, my secretary position involves special favors. You're single, beautiful, we'll get along, and I pay very well for such an important job." Naomi pushed him away and said, "Aren't you ashamed? You're my father!" Mr. Sanders stepped aside confusedly, took a handkerchief out of his pocket and wiped his forehead. "But how can you be so convinced? And anyway, what on earth does that mean, girl?" Walking up to him, Naomi took his right hand. "Here, this is your birthmark, which I noticed the last time we had met. Now look here and explain how I got this picture." Mr. Sanders took his hand away and looked at the picture. "It can't be, but how did you get it?" "Ah, yes, Bianca. Well, it turns out that you are my daughter. Well, why didn't you tell me that right away?" Naomi took the picture from him and tore it into little pieces. "It's not that important now. I understand everything, and I don't want to talk to you about anything else." At home, Naomi told her mother everything, and she finally admitted that Mr. Sanders was constantly cheating on her. And when she got pregnant, he left her some money and gave her an apartment as alimony, and she never saw him again. Naomi was not upset. On the contrary, she was glad to know the truth in the end. Mr. Sanders tried to meet his daughter again, but she categorically refused. "I had no father in my life before, so let me not have him in the future."